Everyone, today we're talking about when Jesus is glorified. Jesus said, "I'm still with you a little while before I go to the one who sent me. You'll look for me, but you won't find me, or where I'm going. And where I'm going, you can't come." The Jewish opposition asked each other, "Where does he intend to go that we can't find him? Surely he doesn't intend to go where our people have been scattered and are living among the Greeks. He isn't going to teach the Greeks, is he?" On the last and most important day of the festival, Jesus stood up and shouted, "Whoever is thirsty should come to me and drink. As the scriptures said, whoever believes in me will have rivers of living water flowing from within them." Jesus said this concerning the Spirit. Those who believed in him would soon receive the Spirit, but hadn't yet experienced the Spirit since Jesus hadn't yet been glorified. So this whole chapter, we're not going to spend a lot of time in it, or in 7 and 8. They're kind of confusing again, and I kind of had this big realization that you don't need to ask what Jesus is talking about as much as you need to ask, when is Jesus talking about? The audience that he's speaking to in the Gospels, they seem to be focused on the past or maybe something that Jesus just did, but a lot of times he's actually talking about the future, as if it's already happened. I think it's important to remember that John is writing on the other side of Jesus' death and resurrection, the event that truly demonstrates who Christ is and how he relates to God, what God is doing through him. And so John is writing for an audience that already knows this, that believes this, and so it should be in mind in these conversations. It's less the earthly Jesus talking to the Pharisees or religious leaders, and really more the resurrected Jesus talking to opposition in John's own time. John is writing, the earliest estimates would be in the 90s, so this is like at least 50 years later. So there's a lot of reflection that's gone on since then about who Jesus is. And I don't think that John is as worried about anachronism as a modern author might be. You just have to know that's how he would write. Now, a key term for understanding all of this is glorification. Right? We've already seen this a lot. Jesus talks about being glorified or when he's glorified. And here, as sometimes we see, it's described as something that'll happen in the future. But I think it should always be assumed, right? The glorification is the moment of the death and resurrection. It's why people should believe, because he will have been glorified, so to speak. And here he talks about where he's going. Is probably reference to the ascension, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God, overcoming the dark powers of the world through the Spirit. Now, John also is very specific about the Spirit doesn't come until after Jesus sends the Spirit. This is in contrast to a gospel like Luke, where the Spirit is there before Jesus and is working in his ministry. However we understand all this and the timing and everything, we live on the other side of the resurrection too. As confusing as John's gospel can be sometimes, and as much as it might seem like it would have made no actual sense to the people that Jesus seems to be talking to, we should hear it as the resurrected Christ speaking to us. And we should also know that his Spirit is available and is active. We can have that living water flowing from us now. Maybe it wouldn't have always made sense then, but can it make sense to us? Can we touch and be touched by that life today?